Sarah Mitchell stood in front of her floor-to-ceiling office windows, gazing at the Manhattan skyline as the sun began its descent. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? At 34, she had built her tech company from the ground up, turning a simple idea into a billion-dollar enterprise. Forbes had just named her one of the most successful female CEOs under 40, yet her personal life remained painfully empty. Her assistant knocked gently before entering with yet another stack of documents requiring her signature. Sarah signed them mechanically, her mind elsewhere. She had everything money could buy except the one thing that mattered most: genuine love. For the past 2 years, Sarah had been on countless dates arranged by exclusive matchmaking services. Each man seemed perfect on paper. Successful, charming, well-educated, but something always felt wrong. She noticed a pattern that made her increasingly cynical. The moment men learned about her wealth and status, their behavior changed. Their eyes would light up with calculation rather than affection. Compliments became excessive and insincere. Conversations shifted toward her business, her investments, her connections. They were attracted to her bank account, not her heart. The final straw came 3 months ago when she overheard her then-boyfriend on the phone bragging to his friend about how he had struck gold and would never have to work another day once he married her. That night, Sarah made a decision that would change her life forever. She would create a test, an elaborate deception to find a man who could love her for who she truly was, stripped of all the trappings of wealth. She worked with her trusted assistant to craft a new identity. Sarah Reynolds, a struggling freelance graphic designer living paycheck to paycheck, working multiple jobs to make ends meet. She bought modest clothes from thrift stores, learned to apply makeup differently, and even practiced taking the subway. Her luxury penthouse would remain hidden. Instead, she rented a small studio apartment in a working-class neighborhood. She traded her designer handbags for a worn canvas bag and her luxury car for public transportation. The transformation was complete, and Sarah began accepting blind dates again, this time presenting herself as someone drowning in debt, struggling with student loans and barely making rent. The results were devastatingly predictable. Date after date, men who had seemed interested during their initial phone conversations would visibly withdraw once they learned about her supposed financial struggles. One man literally stood up mid-dinner and claimed he had forgotten an important meeting. Another suddenly remembered he was still in love with his ex-girlfriend. A third made it through the meal but never called again, despite promising to stay in touch. Each rejection stung, but Sarah told herself this was necessary. Better to discover the truth now than after investing her heart. Then came date number 17 and everything changed. Daniel Cooper was different from the start. The 36-year-old worked as an elementary school teacher and was raising his 7-year-old daughter Emma, alone after his wife had passed away from cancer 3 years earlier. When they met at a modest diner Sarah had chosen for their date, Daniel arrived slightly late, apologizing profusely because he had to wait for his mother to arrive to watch. Emma, his smile was warm and genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that made Sarah's carefully constructed walls tremble slightly. They ordered simple meals, coffee and pie, and Daniel seemed completely at ease despite the humble setting. Sarah, staying in character, mentioned her financial troubles early in the conversation, watching carefully for his reaction. Daniel simply nodded sympathetically and shared his own struggles. He spoke about the challenge of managing on a teacher's salary while raising a daughter alone, how he had to budget carefully for every expense, and how he often worked summer jobs to afford little extras for Emma. There was no judgment in his voice, no sudden cooling of interest, just understanding and shared experience. Sarah found herself genuinely relaxing for the first time in months. As the evening progressed, Daniel talked about his daughter with such obvious love and devotion that Sarah felt her heart soften. He showed her pictures on his somewhat outdated phone, pointing out Emma's gap-toothed smile and wild curly hair. He spoke about teaching with genuine passion, describing how rewarding it was when a struggling student finally understood a difficult concept. He asked Sarah about her work, her dreams, her favorite books and movies, and actually listened to her answers. He never once asked about her connections, her prospects, or whether she had wealthy family members. When the check came, Daniel insisted on paying despite Sarah's protests, explaining that his mother had raised him to always pay on the first date, even if it meant eating ramen for the rest of the week. They began dating regularly, always at affordable places that fit within the budget of Sarah's fake persona. Daniel took her to free outdoor concerts in the park, to museums on discount days, and on picnics, where he proudly unpacked sandwiches he had made himself. He introduced her to Emma after their 5th date, nervous and shy, asking if Sarah would mind meeting the most important person in his life. Emma was delightful, a bundle of energy with her father's kind eyes and an infectious laugh. She showed Sarah her drawings, her favorite books, and chatted endlessly about her day at school. Sarah fell in love with both of them, drawn in by their warmth, authenticity, and the simple joy they found in small moments. One evening, 2 months into their relationship, Daniel invited Sarah to dinner at his modest apartment. He had saved up to buy ingredients for a special meal. He explained, because he wanted to do something nice for her. The apartment was small, but spotlessly clean and filled with Emma's artwork on the walls. Daniel cooked pasta from scratch, concentrating intensely on getting everything perfect. Emma helped set the table, carefully placing mismatched plates and folded paper napkins at each seat. During dinner, Emma suddenly looked at Sarah seriously and asked if she was going to be her new mommy. Daniel blushed furiously and apologized, but Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes at the innocence and hope in the child's question. After Emma went to bed, Sarah and Daniel sat on his worn couch drinking cheap wine. Daniel took her hand and spoke quietly about his fears and hopes. He admitted he had been terrified to start dating again, worried about bringing someone into Emma's life who might leave and break her heart. He had nearly cancelled their first date because he felt he had nothing to offer, just a teacher's salary and the complications of single parenthood. But something about Sarah had given him hope. She understood what mattered. She valued time and kindness over expensive gifts. She saw people for who they were rather than what they had. He told her he was falling in love with her and hoped she felt the same way, even though he knew he could never give her a wealthy lifestyle or fancy vacations. Sarah's heart shattered and reformed simultaneously. Here was a man who believed he was not enough, who worried he could not provide adequately, yet was offering her something infinitely more valuable than money: genuine love, integrity, and a ready-made family. She thought about all the wealthy men who had pursued her for her money, men who had everything yet offered nothing of real value. Then she looked at Daniel, a man who thought he had nothing yet was offering her everything that truly mattered. She knew in that moment that he had passed her test more thoroughly than she ever could have imagined, not despite his poverty, but because of how he had loved her through it. The next evening, Sarah knew it was time for the truth. She asked Daniel to meet her, saying she had something important to tell him. They met at a coffee shop, and Sarah's hands trembled as she prepared to reveal her deception. She started slowly, explaining that she had not been entirely honest with him. She watched his face carefully, seeing confusion and then growing concern. Taking a deep breath, she told him everything: who she really was, what she had done and why. She showed him articles about her company, proof of her real identity, and explained the elaborate test she had created. She told him about all the men who had failed, who had disappeared the moment they learned she was broke, and how he alone had stayed, had loved her, had seen value in her beyond money. Daniel sat in stunned silence for several long minutes. Sarah waited, anxiety crawling up her spine, wondering if she had destroyed the best thing that had ever happened to her. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice quiet and measured. He admitted feeling shocked and somewhat hurt by the deception, but he understood why she had done it. He said what bothered him most was not that she was wealthy, but that she had felt such a test was necessary, that she had been hurt so badly by so many people. Then he smiled slightly and admitted he felt relieved in a strange way. Relieved that Emma could have the opportunities and security he had always wished. He could provide for her. Relieved that money would not be a constant source of stress in their relationship if it continued. Sarah asked nervously if he could forgive her deception, and if he still wanted to be with her now that he knew the truth. Daniel reached across the table and took her hands in his. He said the woman he had fallen in love with was real, whether she lived in a studio apartment or a penthouse, whether she struggled financially or ran a billion-dollar company. What mattered was her kindness, her humor, her patience with Emma, the way she saw beauty in simple moments. That person was real, and that was who he loved. The money changed nothing about those essential truths. He also added with a slight smile that he expected her to keep working because sitting idle would drive someone as passionate and driven as her completely crazy. They began their relationship anew, this time built on complete honesty. Sarah introduced Daniel and Emma to her real world gradually, understanding it was overwhelming. Emma's reaction to seeing Sarah's actual apartment was priceless, her eyes growing round as saucers as she whispered that it looked like a castle. Sarah made it clear that while her wealth could make their lives more comfortable, it would not define their relationship. Daniel continued teaching because it was his passion, and Sarah admired him for it. They kept many of their simple traditions, picnics in the park, homemade dinners, free museum days, because those moments had forged their connection. 6 months later, Daniel proposed with a simple ring he had saved months to buy, refusing to let Sarah purchase something expensive. He said he wanted their engagement ring to represent his love and sacrifice, not her money. Sarah accepted through happy tears, knowing she had finally found what she had been searching for all along. She had tested for gold and found something far more precious, a man of genuine character, a man who had loved her when he thought she had nothing, a man who would love her exactly the same, whether she was rich or poor. In her search for authenticity, she had finally found someone truly authentic. The wedding was intimate, a small ceremony with close friends and family. Emma served as flower girl, beaming with pride. Sarah looked at her new family and realized that the test had changed her as much as it revealed others. She had learned that true wealth was measured not in bank accounts, but in the quality of relationships, in the warmth of genuine connection, in the security of being loved for oneself. Daniel had passed her test, but in doing so, he had taught her what really mattered. Sometimes the greatest treasures come disguised as ordinary, people living ordinary lives. And sometimes being broke in love's eyes means being rich in every way that counts. Thank you so much for watching this story about love, authenticity, and discovering what truly matters in life. If this story touched your heart or made you think differently about wealth and relationships, please support Kindness True Stories by liking this video, sharing it with friends and family who need to hear this message, and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you meaningful stories that celebrate kindness, integrity, and the triumph of genuine human connection. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our inspiring stories. Together, we can spread more kindness in the world, one story at a time. Thank you for being part of the Kindness True Stories family.